Marie here with Angelic Butterfly Kisses Nursery, and we're here today to just basically fatten this little guy up, and it's Colton. I've worked on him before, so I'm basically going to just fatten up his little body here and work on some structuring. If you guys would like to follow along, that would be great. Get my conditioned clay out. And I pretty much in a previous sessions I bulked him out pretty well. He's pretty much covered and got a little bit of shape, but you can see that there's still some foil showing here, so I'm going to go ahead and try to cover that just a little bit better and start adding a little bit of detail here and there with some of my shapers, so you can see what I'm doing with those. And again, a good rule of thumb is you always want to start out with the smallest amount of clay when you're first starting out. That's what I usually do when you're adding it, because you don't want a thick layer, because then you'll have problems while you're baking. It will start to crack and crumble, and sometimes you get those moonies just because it's too thick. You see how it's bent here, it's starting to crack, and that's just because there's just not enough clay back there. And you can take a silicone shaper tool, and you can get these from wish.com or eBay or Amazon, AliExpress for fairly cheap. I think I got these for $3, and you just gently press. You want to experiment. And I'll tell you, after the last year, I've only been sculpting for about 10 months. And in that last year, it's basically all I've been able to do is experiment with the clay myself and find out what works for me, watch a lot of tutorials, study reference guides, study pictures. The best thing I can tell you guys is I always liked to have reference pictures laying in front of me on either a phone or printed out preferably. And this arm is a little big, and I may have to crimp that down, the foil underneath, which is the armature, the foil armature. I don't know if you can see me, I'm just kind of rolling it right there. Sometimes you'll have that foil poking through, and I had some more clay on this, and I scraped it away. And like I said in a previous video, I'm more of an additive sculptor versus a subtractive sculptor, which is taking it away. I like to add more detail rather than carve the detail, and that's basically the difference in the two. I'm just going to get rid of this fuzzy off of my finger here. I'm going to add another thin layer of clay right here so we can avoid this crack. So I'm going to add this clay, just a thin layer. So I'm just going to add this thin layer of clay right here so we can prevent that clay from cracking. And this baby will have chubby little arms and little wrinkles and things to that nature. I'm not going to be able to get it done in this video session simply because we're still sitting at 26 subscribers. So we still need to like and share my video. doesn't cost much to do that, and try not to get out of the focus here. This silicone shaper here is a little bit firmer than these ones. These ones are kind of soft and squishy. They kind of got a firmer, where these ones are just a little bit firmer. So you're gonna have to kind of work around your own experimentation, what works for you, where it works best. Every tool that I have, I probably have bought every tool there is for a sculptor and only use a handful of them. I have a lot, but only use a certain amount. I'm not gonna lie. I only use just a little bit. Like I was getting ready to say, is I can only do short segments for now because I can't go live and it takes so long to upload, and I have 5 children that are back in school and need their mama's attention. Sorry for bumping the tripod there. And I work on a lot of sculptures at once. I don't just work on one until I get it done, obviously. I'm working on a great big one, a newborn size. I haven't done that in front of the camera yet because he's kind of secretive. But once he's done, I'd like to cast him in silicone. At least the body, I will. And this won't be the initial pose of this baby. And like I said, I'm shooting for it to go with baby Colton here, but you know, you want to make sure that the proportions are right and everything looks okay. And as a new sculptor, I measured out the length, and it's going to be 4.5 head lengths, I believe, is the total. I may have to reference that out, but I've got it down on a piece of paper that I can show you guys. But the body itself is 1.5 head lengths, and then there's other measurements for the legs and the arms, and I don't have those in front of me, so I'm not going to just spout them off at the top of my head because I don't know. But altogether, it's the right length measurements. But if it looks too bulky for his head, I'll probably end up putting Ella, and sorry, I bumped the tripod again. But hoping to have a finished little mini baby soon. We got a little bit of foil poking through on the armature here, so I'm gonna add a little bit more clay right here. And I always do the feet and the hands separately. I always do my feet and hands separately, like I was saying, and then attach them at the end because I don't like to mess up the details. They're very detailed, my hands and feet are, and I don't want to mush them in the process of making the little details here. Some people do series baking. I haven't done that yet because I just don't know how that works for some people, and I don't know. I do what I'm familiar with, I guess, and what I'm comfortable with. But series baking, I hear, works very well for some, and that keeps you from messing up the previous work you've sculpted. And that's where you I guess you would call it, you pre-bake it for a few minutes of the time that it's, of the total time, I guess is how I would explain it, because you don't totally bake it in the oven for the total time, and it kind of hardens it a little bit so that way that your details are, you know, pretty much set and they're cured, so you don't have to worry about that, and then you can go on sculpting without having to worry about smushing details like little ears or eyes or noses, which sounds really good to me, but I haven't done that yet. But I would really like to get up to 100 subscribers, so that way we can do this live, and I can do it for a lot longer. And like I said in previous videos, we can actually sculpt a creature together. I think that would be fun, and you guys could do live chats with me, and I'd be able to answer your questions for any beginners that there might be out there, or anybody that's actually having an issue that they have a question about that I may have the answer to. I know it's frustrating when you're sculpting and you come to a roadblock and you can't find the answer you're looking for online. But if you're persistent, trust me, most of the answers are on there. I am self-taught all the way. Whether it be from the library, which is a very, very resourceful place to go also, or the internet. YouTube's also another good place. There's a lot of very experienced sculptors out there. And you also have Facebook, is if you join groups, there's tips and tricks from other sculptors. Not all sculptors like to give away their tricks, and I don't blame them. And if you have some foil sticking out like this, just mash it in before it becomes that problem. You don't want it sticking out all the time. You can also take like a pair of pliers and crimp them in. You can always cover it back up with some clay later on. My problem tends to be I'm a perfectionist, and I smooth everything out before I move on, even if it's not the final layer. So I may not be the best teacher, but by gosh, I will try to answer your questions in the best way I can. And if I don't know the answer, of course, I will not give you a wrong answer. I will tell you I don't know. There's just a little bit more foil sticking out, so this is going to be a little bit of a chubby baby. And yes, I'm a little goofy. Like I said, I have 5 children, so it tends to come out sometimes. You just want to slowly build up the clay over time. It's a process, and it's a journey, and I love my journey. It's very therapeutic for me. And just want to slowly add thin layers of clay here and there where you know you're going to need it. You know, you refer back to your picture that you're looking at, and you always kind of want to have an idea. You always want to kind of have an idea of what you're going for in the end. I tend to look at, you know, Shutterstock is a good reference place for newborns if you're doing babies, and National Geographic is a great place to go for critters. Pinterest is also another great resource that I have just recently discovered. They have tutorials on there as well. I haven't really got a chance to, I guess you would say, explore that area as well as I have YouTube or the others. But you can also pay for some classes, and there's Patreon where you can pay. Some sculptors will teach you for a price, of course. It's not going to be me. I'm going to teach you because I'm self-taught. It didn't cost me a thing to learn, so it's not going to cost you a thing to learn anything I've learned. It's kind of my philosophy. But if any of you guys are interested in my little sprite that I have created, he's for sale. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of him, I think, separately from Brittany, my fairy. I was going to sell him with her. But I don't think I will. But he's for sale if anybody's interested. He's the fuzzy little guy I had shown you previously with the fur. All of the fur, all of the hair, the colorful hairs. I'm just smoothing everything around to try to cover up that foil there without having to add a whole lot more clay, because I don't want it to crack, and I don't want to have big bulky arms on a little baby. So just kind of shaping his armpit here. Smoothing it out to the best of my ability. And the silicone shapers are kind of the best tool to get down in there. And it's kind of tricky though, because if you keep smoothing, it's just going to kind of push that clay away and away and away. And it's not really, it's going to kind of defeat its purpose. So you kind of got to be careful, because like I just did there, I kind of pushed all the clay back up on the arm instead of down on the armpit. So that's a pretty good shapely little armpit there. It's not the best, of course. I went a little bit off camera there. Just trying to add some more clay to it, that's all I did. And I just piled it up a little bit more and trying to move it around here. And like I said, you don't ever want to smear the clay, you just kind of want to gently push it down and move it around. This tool is great for that. This is my favorite tool of all times. My toddler had misplaced it there for a moment. He kept telling me he had hid it behind my desk, and We couldn't find it for a couple days, and then he showed me right where it was, and magically it had appeared. And I had already reordered another one because, well, like I said, it's my favorite tool and I can't really sculpt without it. I mean, I can, but prefer not to. So, there's more in there. Just going to kind of smooth it out there. And another thing I wanted to recommend that I just found out. A lot of you girls out there, you use this silicone makeup sponge and you notice how it crinkles like that, but most of the time when you're smoothing your final piece, you can spray it with your dilutant or whatever, and this makes a great smoother, believe it or not. I could not believe how well it worked for me. I'm not going to spray it right yet because I'm not done, but to get rid of fingerprints and other marks, just make sure those wrinkles aren't, you know, that's on the back side, so this side's pretty clear, and you just smooth away. And you can get these off of wish.com for like $1. Pretty neat. And for my hands on these mini babies, I tend to usually not use foil armatures. A lot of people do, and there's nothing wrong with that. And baby Colton says hello. He wants to be right here, I guess. Hello. He says hello. But enough of that nonsense. He's going back over there. His head literally rolled. But what I was saying was, the hands, when they're this small, the foil tends to be, it bulks it up so much, the little hands just are kind of out of proportion with the body, and I just don't, it doesn't work for me. It might work for some others, but it just does not work for me, not in the least. And this is a dental pick you can find at Walmart or Walgreens or CVS for fairly cheap, under $5, and it's good for getting into these sharp corners until you can get that silicone tool, and these will be sharpened, the edges. I just got to get them in their final position. And again, there was a little bit more foil over here, but I'm just kind of fattening up the belly too while I'm over here. So I added just a little bit more clay over here than I would if it was just a cover-up, because there's a belly. And when you're building your armature, you know, if you know that they're going to have fatter bellies, you can account for that in the armature. You can add just a little bit more foil there, so that way the clay isn't that thick there and it doesn't have the cracking issue. I did not on this one because I totally kind of forgot, to be honest, that this is going to be a baby body. Kind of used to making little fairy bodies when they're this small, and not baby, like newborn baby bodies. And of course he's gonna have a little pectorals too, so let's just place them right there. There we go. And that's not going to work because that one's bigger than the other one, so I'll just take them off. And the best way to do that is to roll out a little cylindrical ball. Yeah, I can't say that word right now. But you know what I'm trying to say. And try to cut it right in half here. And take one little half of it. sorry. Didn't mean to bump y'all. Place it on one side. Preferably in the shape you want it to be, so you don't have to, you know, reshape it 1,000 times. And of course you always want to use the least amount of clay. So we're just kind of gonna spread out the edges here to give it a little bit of shape. You know, kind of let everybody know it's got a little bit of pecs. I hope I'm staying on the camera for you. That's another good thing about live, is if I go off camera, you guys can say, "Hey, Marie, you're not in the screen. Get back over there." And I can be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But on a serious note, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you've learned something from it. I hope you take a lot from my videos, and I hope I'm helping at least some of the beginners out. I know I haven't been able to cover much, but like I said, it's because I can't really sculpt for a long time, simply because I can't go live, because it takes up so much time. And to do that, guys, I need 100 subscribers, and right now I'm at 26. So we are at a quarter way there. So if we could just get the rest of the way there, that would be awesome sauce, and you guys would be able to help me out picking a day that works best for you, and I'd have to work with you there, of course, to make sure that day also works best for me and my kiddos, because, you know, I'm sure we all don't want them sculpting along with us too. Of course, that might be funny. Actually, my 9-year-old, she's getting pretty good at sculpting, and my 11-year-old has taken up the art of drawing, so that might be interesting someday to share with you all. But my 2.5-year-old, he also likes to sculpt along with mommy sometimes. I don't know what he's ever making, but I promise it's great stuff. Great, great stuff. Now, those are not going to be the final pecs, because, well, they don't look like baby pecs. That's where I have to go in and use fine details and things like that. And to make like the outlines and the lines and things like that, I'm going to have to use, like, you would take a plastic baggie, depending on how the depth of the lines that you want. You would take a plastic baggie or saran wrap, that works too. And I use the back end of my one thing, but make sure there's no wrinkles like I have here. And to crease, you're kind of going to make a line like this, a line like that, and that's just so it's not so, I guess you would say, blunt, I guess would be the word. See how it's just kind of there? You can soften that up with your brush here, because that's just a little too dramatic for me. And blend in that clay there. But that's how you make wrinkles or pores or any kind of lines you want to make on any of your sculpts. You're going to use a baggie or some saran wrap. something to where it's not so harsh. And if you ever feel like you've added too much clay, I'm going to show you real quick what I do to take that away and what tool I use. This is a handmade tool. It is a guitar string looped and secured with epoxy putty. I did have it secured with tape, but that wasn't working out so well. And then you also have these kind of loop tools, the rakes, I guess is what they're called. Those come with sculpting sets, but if you don't have those, these work just as well. And if those aren't available, some people like to use their X-Acto knives, and I guess blade number 25 I hear doesn't take away that much clay. It just, you want to use just a very slight swiping motion. It just barely takes, you know, a light amount of clay away. Now this tool though is going to take, it's going to take quite a bit. If you swipe it, it's going to take a chunk of your clay off of there. And that was just an example, so I'm just going to put that back on my baby, my little babette. But this is like good for also like smoothing in. If you don't push as hard, it's not going to take it away. It'll just finely smooth that clay right there. But this guitar string, it has a little bit of a, I don't know if you can see that there. It's a little bit of a line to it. It'll smooth the clay really well. It's also secured in epoxy putty, and instead of adding clay, this process will kind of push the existing clay up and kind of away from the torso into the belly, I guess you would say. I'm going to take some from the ribs, just a little bit, just a little bit, from the waist up. And it kind of acts like, you know, I guess your fingerprints would, like when you're smoothing, but you always need to go back in and smooth it down like you want it. That way you got a little bit of a pudgier belly, but without having to add much more clay. It's going to take the clay from up here, kind of push it down here, kind of the same way that your fingerprints would move the clay around, I guess, is what would happen. I guess that's the best way of me trying to explain myself to y'all. I'm going to try to keep the body in proportion here. I just want the belly to stay right here, and then we got the pelvic area that's going to be right here. You always want to keep the thigh area here, and you're going to have your pelvic area here, and you're going to have your belly here. It's going to be just a little bit of a pudge. Then back here you want to make sure that that also stays in proportion as well. And I guess this tool could always be used as a rake to keep those, excuse me, my dogs are gonna chime in, but I guess you could use this as a rake to build those pectorials up on the baby. Sorry if I bumped the camera. I'm trying to work very carefully this time and working on those skills. This baby needs a lot of work, and it takes a lot of practice to get where you want with your sculpt, and this is nowhere near where I would want to be. But I'm gonna have to go for now. I do have some stuff I have to do tonight, so unfortunately I have to end this video here, and I hope to see you a lot sooner than later. And keep up your journey, keep sculpting in the meantime, and I will meet you back at the same place, same time, hopefully with a lot more subscribers, hopefully with 100 more subscribers, and that would be all right, and we could chit chat, sculpt, make a creature. I don't know what we'll have planned for next time, but thank you, and if you could hit that like button, subscribe, please subscribe, and share, and there's a little bell up there if you want to hit that for the notifications for any upcoming videos that I will have. That'll notify you as soon as they are uploaded. And you all take care, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
I'm trying to learn how to braid the clay.